I watched a bird fly from its nest in the tree in my backyard. This just happened the other day. This is a true story. Watch this bird jump out of the nest, and it flew right into the side of my house and hit the ground. It got up. It was obviously confused what just happened. It didn't even hit a window. Like, I've heard of them hitting like a window or a glass door or something. No, just the siding of my house. And I thought to myself at that second, this is a perfect metaphor, a perfect analogy for what life is right now. We're just banging our heads against the wall, and that's the lemon. The reason I started that story, what's up, everybody? This is Evan with the Lemons with Clemens, if you obviously didn't already know that. But the reason I started with that, and that's a true story, that happened about 3 days ago, and I watched it. It was the craziest thing to see. You just see a bird just, I don't know if it was suicidal or if it just had enough or it just had no idea what was going on. And this wasn't like a baby bird. This was a full-grown bird. Just slammed right into the side. It's actually scared the shit out of me, in all honesty. But I watched the whole thing happen. I was actually walking into my house. Maybe it was trying to attack me because it happened just a few feet away from me. But the reason I say that it is a metaphor for what life is like now is because it seems like nothing is changing. We're now at what, day 400 to slow the curve of our 2 weeks to slow the curve of the pandemic. Now, I'm not here to be all political or even talk about any of the issues going on with vaccines or and I'm not here to tell you what to do. Okay, the one thing I will say, all right, I'm going to talk about it a little bit because I think it's relevant. All right, vaccines as a whole are a miracle. As a whole, vaccines are a miracle. I mean, the fact that we came up with the vaccine in such a short amount of time is a miracle when it comes to science. It's never been made that quickly. It's never been distributed, I think, that quickly. So it's an impressive feat. It's hard not to respect and appreciate that. It doesn't matter your thoughts on if it's a good vaccine or not, or if you should take it or not. Just full stop. That is a fantastic work by the scientific community. Well, maybe, unless it's got like an implant in it. I don't know what you all believe. Okay, so I think it's a great feat for mankind, for the science community. Because it's made doesn't necessarily mean that it's the greatest thing ever. So now we have the Delta variant that's coming out. And well, I shouldn't say it's coming out. It's already out. It's already around. And it's much more contagious. So what's this mean? Does that mean that we're going to be are we going to be having booster vaccine shots? I mean, polio was eradicated because of that, but a vaccine when it comes to a virus is a little bit different. Okay? Think about the flu, all right? And for me personally, I treat COVID kind of like the influenza virus. Statistically, if you want to be one of those people, it doesn't matter what side you're on, okay? If you want to follow the actual science, you look at the numbers, statistically, you will have a lower chance if you're under the age of 30 and are decent health of not dying from COVID than if you had the vaccine over the age of 30. So with that said, I think personally, like I said, I treat it just like the flu. I've never gotten the vaccine for the flu. And there's a new one every year that you're supposed to take. Although healthcare workers are required to get the influenza vaccine every year. The elderly people, some feel required, and a lot of them do. I actually had a conversation with my father the other day, and he never got the flu vaccine before. And now that he's getting older, he thinks it's more important and he will take more precautions for it. He was never sick a day in his life, never really needed the vaccine. I'm kind of in that same scope. See, he actually advocates for the vaccine and thinks that I should get it. And full disclaimer, I have not gotten it. So, I don't want to hear this whole, I'm part of the reason it's still around, because people with the vaccine are still getting it. Okay, there was an article just on Bloomberg that even though people are vaccinated, the CDC stopped taking the numbers or stopped recording numbers of those of the what they call the breakthrough infections, meaning the people with vaccines that have gotten infected with COVID. They stopped recording that, but some states still do. And there's over 100,000 of these breakthrough infections. Now, the severity of said infections are much lower. All right. Now, here's the other thing. If you honestly think that all the deaths from COVID are from COVID from COVID alone, then that's also not true. COVID works in the same way that kind of the flu does. People die from the flu every year. Thousands of people die. But they don't die specifically from the flu. It's because they get pneumonia. It's because of comorbidities. Meaning, do you already have heart or lung issues? Are you obese? Do you have poor health? All these things are a factor where it affects you differently, and it affects you more intensely. It's more severe. And the same goes for the flu. All those things affect you a lot more. So people dying from COVID also had other issues. Now, and they were getting labeled as COVID deaths, okay? But the death certificates have multiple comorbidities on them. So with that said, we have to stop looking at it as get the vaccine or you die, or if you get COVID, you die. And that's just not the case. I think there are high-risk people and there are low-risk people. On one hand, even though everybody says get it, I have not gotten it because I do not feel required to get it. It has nothing to do with the science of the vaccine. It has nothing to do with this conspiracy behind it. I'm looking at it through the lens like any other vaccine. I don't even know the last time I got like a booster or a vaccine shot, maybe like even tetanus or anything like that. Okay, so this is not a thing about COVID. It's not about propaganda or fake news. Again, and I repeat, and I will continue to repeat this, I think the fact that we came with a vaccine that is hugely successful is a great thing. It doesn't mean it's for me. You know, it's if you were to look at the idea that if you were to think that your entire life is based on somebody else getting a vaccine or not, then you're dead wrong, okay? If you look at the amount of infections that we've had throughout the entire United States, add in all the people that have also gotten vaccinated, and I think they kind of hit a wall once they hit 47% of the population being vaccinated. How close are we to the idea of herd immunity already now? Now, the Delta variant proves to me something that I was saying before. I didn't say it on the podcast, but it's something I've said to my friends. This is just going to become something that happens every year. We just didn't handle it the way that we probably should when it first happened, because you look at a place like South Korea, they handled it and they took care of it and kept their infection rates lower. The reason is because they've already been infected with respiratory viruses like SARS. They've already done this. The problem that I'm having now with me as I get older is that there is no way in hell, it doesn't matter who's in office, but I do not trust what the government is telling me all the time. I don't trust the CDC, the NIH. I don't trust the WHO. I definitely am not trusting the Chinese people where the virus originated that are trying to cover their own ass. If you believe all that hoopla, then I think maybe you should get vaccinated. But I am also not a person that is going to live through fear. Now, this could be a completely different story in days, weeks, months, maybe a year from now. Maybe I get it and I say, you guys definitely need to get the vaccine. This is awful. I mean, I had swine flu when that was all the rage. When that was the virus of the, you know, that was the hip virus at the time, back in, 2009, 2010. It was my first year in college. I was in the dorm, and it was awful. But I thought I was like dying and I felt like shit. But I've been sick. I've had sinus infections. I've had bronchitis. I've had all this other stuff, but I haven't had COVID. But that doesn't mean I feel that I need to get a vaccine. I think if you work in healthcare, I think you should get it, just like they have to get the influenza virus. You're around all this stuff all the time. The purpose is to protect the frontline workers. I think if you're older, you have a higher risk factor. I think you should get it. Just like the influenza virus, because it affects them differently. If you have asthma, COPD, have heart disease, have are more morbidly obese, maybe you should get it. But I don't have any of those factors. I'm overweight. I'm not obese. We saw my doctor for a checkup. He told me to lose weight and everything else was good. My levels are all good on my blood work that I got done. I'm not even looking at any problems with any heart, any of my cholesterol levels or potassium or calcium, and nothing. He didn't even recommend a multivitamin for me. So if I'm not in the high risk factor, then why am I looking into a vaccine? And this is where we are hitting our heads into the wall. It doesn't matter what side you take. Right now, everybody is so upset with each other. We are making it political. We're making it right versus left. We're living in fear, and I think a lot based on the media, and you all know how I feel about media as is. But I do not feel that it is a requirement that I get it. If I'm sick, I'm going to not go out. I'm not going to visit my family. I don't know if I have COVID if I'm sick, but that's just what you do in general. You just stay away from others to not get them sick. So I'm so tired of right now we're just living in fear, and if you don't do maybe what everyone else is doing, you're the worst. Maybe I'm the worst because I'm not getting the vaccine. But I'm so tired of my mom asking me if I've gotten the vaccine. And when I explain why I'm not going to, I don't think it's necessary at this point. I don't think kids should get it. I don't think if you're under the age of, college kids, they don't need to get it. The infection rates of college kids might be up, but their symptoms aren't severe. There are few cases, yes. There are children have died, yes. Our hearts break for all those people. That, in all honesty, nobody wants any deaths at all. But you cannot base your life decision off of anecdotal stories. You have to go with what you can. Facts, statistics. Statistically, you have a lower chance of dying if you're under the age of 30 and you're in relatively good health. From 30 and up, by decade, it exponentially gets more severe. You add in factors that, like lung problems or obesity or heart problems, it becomes more severe. Take that with what you will and do something about that. Take that and use that. Use your facts. Use the statistics. Because this whole thing about when they're talking about bringing masks back, even if you're vaccinated, are you kidding me? What if you want people? If you're so distraught over people getting the vaccine, don't tell them get the vaccine and also continue to wear your mask. The whole point of getting a vaccine was so that we could hopefully live our life again. But we can't. We can't live our lives. We're still halfway locked down. There's still supply chain issues. There's still people that don't want to work. There's still the idea that some places don't want to let you in because of your vaccine. I just saw something about some bars not letting people in unless they have proof of getting a vaccination. That's ridiculous. If you can have the vaccine and still get COVID and still spread it, then what the hell is the point of showing a vaccination card? It doesn't mean you're not going to get it. It lowers your chances. Yes, it does, 100%. But it doesn't mean you won't get it. And that's what people aren't getting. They were probably, does the vaccine then make you the carrier? You could be a carrier and not even realize it at that point. That, just like all the people that they said were the asymptomatic people that could be carrying it. We're not talking about that, though. We're talking about getting vaccines and making sure it happens. And then random things that kind of make you scared where they say, we're going to go door to door and to all the unvaccinated people. How the hell do you know I'm not vaccinated? And why is there a list with me on it? And that's a whole nother thing. I think that was probably not even a real thing that got blown way out of proportion, but that's a scary thought as is. The point is, I'm under the mindset that the government should stay out of my business. I think you should stay out of my business. Well, I guess I shouldn't say that because I'm out here giving my business on a podcast that anybody can listen to. But the point is, other than this podcast, what I do with my life is not going to affect yours. If I end up getting COVID, guess what? I'm going to stay home. I'm not going to come spread it. And that's kind of the point I think we're all missing. Like, we've already gone through this once. Why are we doing this again? How long does it go for? We already went through this. 2 weeks to slow the curve. Once we get through summer, it'll go get better. Okay, now we got a vaccine on its way. Everybody needs to get the vaccine. We're starting to open back up. Even though you got your vaccine, you can still get it, and now it's coming back with a new variant. We got to get masks back on. What the hell does the mask even do? Nobody wears it right. The mask is completely just to make you feel better. Don't give me all this shit about how surgeons wear it in the ER. Okay? I'm so tired of that argument. The idea that, if masks don't work, then why do they wear it in the operating room? Well, that's because of droplets from your mouth, of blood going into your mouth or out of your mouth, saliva dripping. It's about the water droplets. Not everything that is aerosol, like a virus like this, is going just from the water droplets. And it's going to catch some stuff, but it's not perfect. The biggest risk factors, if you looked at all the spikes, was when it was super hot because everybody stayed inside in the air conditioning that was circulating its own stuff, so get better air filters. All right, the people outside aren't getting it as bad because there's a lot of space. It can go anywhere. It's okay to be outside. Staying indoors where you're just recirculating the same air is what's doing it. That's why in the cold, why we get sick, because we're staying indoors, not opening the windows, not getting fresh air in. Common sense has gone out the window, I'm telling you. And I'm banging my head against the wall. And it's not just with that. It's not just this COVID bullshit, okay? It's with everything. I'm so tired of hearing about businesses aren't paying enough. We're now at a point nobody's going to be paying enough for any work because I don't think anybody really wants to work. If you made such a big deal about not being able to afford things, you'd work more. Sometimes you have to earn what you get. You don't just get it. And this idea that we just keep doing stimulus money, I think some people truly do need it. I would never disagree with that. I think there's also a large amount of people that take advantage of it. You know, and I think because of everything that's going on, common courtesy is out the window. Patience is out the window. Common sense is out the window. Nobody holds a door open for anybody anymore. Where is it all gone? Was it the masks? Was it staying inside in quarantine? So what do we do now? Where do we go from here? What's the next step of what we do? And this is where I worry, because are we going to just continue to relive this over and over? Is this just our new way of life? Always being in fear of getting sick? That's no way to live. You know, I did a podcast. My last week's podcast was about traveling and how I think it's super important to travel. If this shuts it down again, I guarantee it hurts a lot of people spiritually and mentally and emotionally. Not being able to see loved ones this next week, and I'm going to go see loved ones that I hadn't spoken to in a long time. But people were afraid to travel and see loved ones because they didn't want to get them sick. Even if they didn't have any signs of being sick, we were just in this fear zone that somebody looks at you wrong, you're a carrier of a deadly virus, and then nothing can be done about it. It's just, we're at such a difficult place. And I don't think we're getting all the information we need. And the problem is, everything is so political now, it doesn't matter where you look because both sides are extreme. So you got to kind of look in the middle a little bit. You got to figure out what's going to be the best. Because right now, masking up, getting vaccinated, constantly doing hand sanitizer, not going out unless needed, staying home, whatever, that's over the top. But going free willy out here, licking ice cream in the stores, coughing on things, giving zero fucks, that's ridiculous too. Just because I don't want to get the vaccine doesn't mean I have to act like an asshat about it. It's that simple. That's, again, where the common courtesy comes in. If I'm not going to do it, I'm still going to take my own personal precautions. If I'm sick, I'm not going to be bringing it around you. If you're sick, I don't want you to bring it around me. If I cough into my arm. If I sneeze into my shirt. Does anybody else do that? I always pull my shirt up and sneeze into it? And I don't know if that's a gross thing or if that's normal. Have you ever done that? And it's like, I don't know if I should even say it. Oh my God. So whenever you just have like the residue from your sneeze on your chest, it's disgusting. I don't know sometimes you just don't have a napkin. What do you do? I think everybody was excited because of things opening back up, but you don't realize how difficult it is. I've spoken numerous times about being in a restaurant, and every restaurant is short-staffed right now. Every business is technically short-staffed. You see help wanted signs everywhere. And I think it's more than just the pay. It really is. If it was the pay, people are upping their pay and they're still not getting help. I don't know what it is, but people just aren't working anymore. Even the great jobs. The idea, I think we're at an evolutionary point with the workplace, with so many people able to work at home now. And I think that's a fantastic idea, as long as it's executed properly. I think that people are going to start learning. They need to start coming up with new, maybe rules and regulations for it, because there's going to be people that are taking advantage of that. And that ruins it for everybody else. I wish I could do a job remotely from home. That would be fantastic. But instead, I feel like I'm working extra because there's less people that want to work in the real world right now. Maybe it'll change as school opens back up. What I really think it is, in all honesty, I really think that, yes, it was because of the stimulus checks. I know a lot of people that quit being a server or a cook because they had kids, and they got a lot of money through stimulus, and still are even. But I think nobody got to enjoy their summer last year. Everybody was trapped inside. You couldn't travel. And fear was with everyone. And now, I think everybody's finally enjoying themselves. They're finally going out. I keep hearing more and more about people traveling and taking vacations than I think I ever have. It may be just because I haven't seen it in a year, but I just feel like if I look at my Facebook feed, I feel like it's just full of people taking vacations. I think it's, I talked on I think it was on my last podcast. I had a friend of mine driving through Denver, Colorado, and every hotel was booked except for just a couple rooms, and he was able to find a place to stay. Because so many people are traveling. What I find curious is, what do you think happens after this, though. I was saying that earlier. That's kind of where I was going until I went on to another tangent as usual. But what happens next? Do you think that we're at a point now where we just open everything up and just say, screw it. We've already done this for a year. Let Darwin's evolution take over from here. If you die, you die. If you live, you live. Is that going to happen? Or is it going to be, are we going to live through fear again? Are we going to try to force vaccines? Is that going to become the new mandatory school vaccination? I know some colleges are already doing it, which makes no sense. It really doesn't. I honestly think it's just a play to make people feel better, because statistically, which all these colleges should be looking at because they're colleges and universities and they should be looking into the research of everything, statistically, the people going to the colleges and schools are better off just going and living their life. They're not going to get hurt. Well, I mean, some people are going to suffer, okay? Unfortunately. It's like that line from Shrek. Some people will die, but that's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. And then it sounds so cruel, okay? But we're looking at statistically. Obviously, our hearts break for anybody that does suffer and hopefully doesn't die. All right, I want everybody to come through on this. But if you're worried about your entire campus getting infected, then fucking keep them on that campus. Don't send them home with their family to the elderly people that will actually suffer. Look at remember when there was all the big deal about all the spring breakers that went out? They kept talking about like in Florida and Louisiana and somewhere else. I think it was Tampa Bay specifically. I think especially after the Super Bowl, the cases really didn't jump up that bad. Honestly, there wasn't this huge wave of COVID because of it. And just while we're talking about that, let's also mention the idea that during all the protests going on, when everybody was gathering thousands of people in the streets, how did we just stop worrying about COVID during that? Was there just no COVID because we were trying to beat racism? Like, in all honesty, and that's one of those things where the common sense just seemed like it went away. Because to me, from an outside perspective, looking at that, we're talking about the fear of COVID, and then right after that, seeing thousands of people gathered, forcing more people to come out because you had anti-protesters, you had the police. Was that not a super spreader event? And that's a thing that I don't understand, I guess. And I guess it's beyond my reach on what I know and what I can elaborate on. But that's one of those things that I've always wondered that, like, good for everything that all the attention that's been brought to racism and police brutality. I'm not harping on that. That's another podcast idea, okay? But this idea that we're just ignoring COVID because of it was just asinine to me. So what happens next? This is what I think happens next. I think more mandatory vaccinations start happening, and then I also think by the end of this year, early next year, they start talking about boosters for all the other variants that start to come. I think this is something that we continue to deal with and continue to go through. And we're going to be constantly banging our head against the wall because nothing is going to change. It's going to be constant fear-mongering, putting fear in all of us for, and without, it sounds so conspiratorial, but to get us to comply. At a certain point, there'll be less resistance because we just want to move on with our lives and just give in. Does that mean that we give in and just do whatever the government wants? The problem is, it never ends. There's another variant. Mutations happen. That's how viruses work. That's how viruses survive. You will never eradicate this. The vaccine didn't stop it. So booster shots, new vaccines, new variants, There's another super bug probably. There's always something else. So if you continue to live in fear, you're just going to be constantly banging your head in the wall. So maybe that bird was sending me a message. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I think that's all I got for the message. I was going to go somewhere, but I had no idea where it was going. With that said, let's do better as a whole. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about all of us. I'm saying the government needs to do better. The politicians need to do better. The scientists need to do better. The people need to do better. Let's actually use the science. Trust the science, trust the science, trust the science. That's what everybody kept saying. Take the vaccine, wear your mask, trust the science. Okay, look at the science and look at the facts and realize that it's actually not as bad if you're younger. And half the people that are talking about it are the people that are younger, as if they're going to just drop dead if they get the vaccine or if they get COVID. It's just not how it works. Yes, it happens, but it's rare. It's super rare. What do you not see in that? It's because we only talk about all these times that it happens, so it seems like it happens a lot more. Statistically, which is the facts that you have to base things on, it doesn't happen that often. Anyway, that bird really spoke to me, and I really had to get that off my chest. All we're doing as a society right now is just banging our head into the wall. When I talk to people, sometimes I'm just banging my head into the wall. If you have anything to say about COVID, the vaccine, please do not be afraid to comment on my Facebook page, on the Lemons with Clemens on Facebook. Make sure you follow me on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. I am on YouTube, the Lemons with Clemens on YouTube as well. I will be including video. I know I've said that for several podcasts, but it's going to happen. I do have more guests coming on. And I think I'm going to do a collaboration with a couple of friends as well. Maybe do some stuff with some video games. And, I want to talk about media as well. Movies, TV, video games, whatever. Thank you all for listening. I absolutely appreciate it. And I love any time that somebody tells me that they've been listening and they want to chime in about something. I love starting that discussion. Please, let's keep doing it. And thank you for listening. This is Evan with the Lemons with Clemens.